All right, warm welcome again to Inner Fitness. The session today is on focus, and this is pretty critical at this juncture. So I'm really enjoying exploring this topic today. But as always, we'll start with a bit of a reflection. So sitting comfortably always, but very alert, very purposeful. And it's amazing how easily, when we sit to reflect, our mind can wander. The feeling that it's wandering to important places, but wandering nonetheless. And so rather than forcing my mind to stabilize, to sit still, I just watch. Where does it wander to? Taking a few moments now, quietly, to just observe my own mind. Taking note of where my mind wanders to and the method I use to bring it back to the point of focus. Both of these, very useful information to the self, where my mind wanders and what method I use to bring it back to the point of focus, the intention with which I sit. Om Shanti. So we're going to just take a moment and explore together those two questions as we were, and that was not very long, our observation. Obviously, there's 24 hours in a day, which is a whole lot longer than less than a minute or maybe a minute. But in that short time, did I have a point of focus? Was my mind able to stay in that point of focus? And if not, where did the mind wander to? Anyone want to share? Or was their mind completely focused, which is great? Powerful mind.
Getting stuck in the day-to-day life challenges or situations and relationships.
Right. Thank you, Raj. So everyone hopefully heard, stuck in the day-to-day challenges, situations, relationships. Let's see if anyone else wants to add what they might have observed.
I think that's pretty much, what she said is true. It said all of them. For me, yes, about work and also about studies and what to do. So it kind of comes under that category of
Right.
a story of the body.
So the role of being a student, absolutely. I just want to check, Raj, were you able to hear Jima when she spoke just now?
Not that clear.
Okay, she was just saying that she also found similar, in her case, Jima's studying, so same idea, getting caught up in day to day, but really studies, since that's a key role for her. And then we have Nora, I think, is going to share, and I'll try to repeat. Two things. Purpose brought focus. Spiritual purpose. But then when it had to do with figuring something out, leads you off. Right. Even though it might be relevant, it can lead you off into what we call expansion or a tangent. Good. Anyone else want to share?
I think we are, like many times it
I'm
goes
translating
back
English
to
to
the
English now, Jima. So
it goes back to the past, or either thinking about future.
goes back to the past, the future. So there's definitely, thank you, issues with time.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Yeah, no, definitely issues with time. We're trying something different, Raj, so that you can hear the conversation, we hope. So give us feedback if that's not the case. Can you still hear me speaking, Raj?
I could hear you.
Great. We've now put you near the speaker, so you'll be able to hear others share as well. So yeah, it's huge. The pressure, I will repeat whatever Raj shares, but the pressure of time is huge, the past and the future. Anyone else want to share anything? Hema, were you going to share?
Uh, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, I can't see you, but I
Yeah.
can hear you.
Yeah. So no, like I'm having little bit of headache, right? So my
Oh,
mind goes there. My mind went there. So whenever there is any physical discomfort, our attention goes there, right? So
great. You're hitting all of the big ones. The pull of the body, huge in pulling the mind, especially if it is pain. There's many reasons the body can pull. It can be image attached to one's body, but pain is huge in terms of pulling the mind. So thank you for offering that answer. All levels of pain, physical, mental, emotional, absolutely. Dolan, did you want to add anything?
Kind of same, like pain, fear of the unknown and things like that.
Yeah, good. Fear of the unknown. Excellent. Really good. I think you've covered a lot of issues that reveal once again, we're all very similar under the skin. Very similar things pull us. We'll come back to that. The second question was, what method do you use, if you were able to get that far, what method do you use to come back into focusing on that intention or objective? What method do you use? So I'm sitting in meditation, I observe my mind wander. What method do I use to bring it back to the objective?
I listen to Brahma Kumari speakers.
You listen to Brahma Kumari's speaker.
Yeah.
Very good.
Morning, I do it in the evening, and sometimes people get disturbed that I do it during the day, and then my mind is all happy for a few hours. So something else comes up, and then,
Good.
man, I'm back year one, and then you do listen again, and then it's just like the continuous push and pull kind of mind.
So you're very proactive. You have a system in place of helping your mind, which is regular. So regularly listening to classes on spiritual knowledge is what Raj was sharing. Morning, evening, during the day if necessary. Mind may wander, but knowing that I'm going to listen to a class. So a lifesaver is on the way. Yeah, so keeping a really good lifeline to something that will help the mind stay on track. That's great. So Nora's suggesting, meaningful, also connected to what Raj shared, meaningful reflection. So listening to a class can spark that, and
Reminding myself.
reminding myself. And how do you remind yourself, Hema?
It's just like like um, reminding myself what am I doing and why I'm doing. If
Mm,
I'm in a meditation, I just have to,
mm,
even when the mind start wandering, you just uh, ask yourself that what am I doing and why why I'm sitting here, right?
mhm,
Because I was given instructions to focus on myself, and then my mind, like it helps, reminding myself helps to get back on a track, right? So
mhm. Wonderful. Anyone
and yeah,
else?
and for reminding, you can use a different tool, right? So knowledge and
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It can be what Raj was suggesting. Classes can remind us. Some have visual cues, some have a beep on their phone, some have music that goes off, all sorts of things that we can use, and internal as well. Anyone else want to share when they're going off course how they bring themselves back onto focus?
Um, I think keeping a habit of, paying attention to my mind,
Mm,
like in a detached way. How is it right now? Being present at a moment. So I see, observe that mind is going somewhere, and then I self-talk that this is not necessary. It's yeah, at that moment, bringing. I think soul conscious practice. It's very helpful for me to bring
mm,
that, knowing that what is driving my the thoughts at that moment. Then when I figure out it's to do with my roles and or something which is not really important at that moment, then I try to focus on my true self, or try to be detached at a time. I think soul conscious practice is
great.
helpful.
So, a lot of Jima sharing actually reminded me of just developing the spiritual muscle through practice, having the muscle spiritually to focus. It's one thing to know I should focus, but do I actually have I got a practice that will develop the capacity to focus? So the practice of paying attention. Did anyone else want to share the how? My thoughts actually so the thought has to be meaningful. So when we look at where the mind wanders to and how I'm going to bring it back into focus, these two aspects have a point of overlap, which many of you touched on, especially when Hema said the word why. And Nora was mentioning meaningful. So the places the mind doesn't randomly wander. Yes, after a while it becomes habits. And we always like to bring in the example of the addict who the soul is really quite pulled for attainment. It wants to receive something that it perceives, that I perceive as beneficial. It may not, in absolute terms, be beneficial, but again, if I say I'm a substance user in this example, and I just want to get the drug because when I get the drug, I feel good. So I have remarkable focus on getting that drug. Remarkable. It's all I think about day and night because I am addicted to it and it makes me feel good whenever I have it. And if someone wants me to focus on something else, my mind has the habit of focusing on that thing that I feel I get an attainment from. So when we watch the various places, and I love the examples given, um, roles, relationships, and even the body, we expect so much of this body. We want so much from it. And when it is in pain or not performing, when it's not allowing me to get what I want, the relationship becomes rather difficult. But these different places that we get attainment from, and we want relationships to go a certain way so I can feel good. We want our studies to go a certain way so I can feel good. And yes, we could even use the word, ego or image is kind of pulling the mind. So in Raj Yoga, the way we understand it is that the mind is like my kingdom. And I have, there can be two possibilities ruling my kingdom. One we call virtue or purity or truth, and the other we call illusions or even vices such as ego, fear, etc. Either of those can be. So what happens is the thoughts that seem to pop into my head are being informed by which force is ruling my kingdom. So if ego is ruling my kingdom, attachment, the big one, desires ruling my kingdom, very specific thoughts are going to come into the mind. And we've developed a very, because of thinking we are the body, we've developed a very close relationship with these different forces of ego and attachment, etc. And so our mind keeps wandering to the usual places that it's used to trying to get something from, that ego will get something from, or attachment will get something from. The familiar, the body not functioning well is quite frightening to us. So fear starts to promote where the mind is wandering to. So you can see how they're really moving the mind. And then meanwhile, we're trying to get truth and virtue and purity to rule our mind, because although these other forces have been ruling the mind for a while and would like to convince us that they're doing a really good job, we know after a while that it's at a price. It really is at a price that it feels like my dignity is going down. So I know Nora had an incident today, and I don't know if she wants to share, but I'm happy to share mine. So I went, I was going to join an exercise class. And lately I've noticed that all the exercise classes are completely full. So as an instructor, I'm not teaching the class, but as an instructor taking the class, even if I'm in the class, I'm automatically taken out and put on the wait list. And it really depends on which one's ruling, because they determine what the objective is. Now, if it's attachment and desire ruling, I just want to get into the class. That's what I want. But if it's dignity and royalty and respect and generosity, the truth, the true qualities of the soul ruling the mind, I'm going there to support the situation. Whatever happens is fine, but how can I support? And I remember showing up and I could feel my focus is to get truth. I want this side to prevail, these kinds of thoughts and feelings. That's where I want to focus. But I could still feel very interesting. These thoughts over here were quite active, so they kept popping up. I want to get in the class. No, you don't. I want to get in the class. No, you don't. It was very interesting. Some have talked about the angel and the devil on each shoulder, and they're just kind of battling it out. My focus is to bring out the angel, because we know at the end of the day, purity is the source of happiness. I want purity to rule my kingdom. So, but this has been around. This other force has been ruling my kingdom for a while. So it keeps trying to pull me from my objective. And so it was very interesting to watch. And so I decided to help this side to win, the angelic side. So I went behind the desk. I saw that the young man, who's very young, on the desk was struggling. The phone was ringing. He was really struggling. So I decided, I put on a glove and I went behind the desk and I literally started to check people. He had missed so many people. So he said, no, there's tons of space in the class. And I realized he didn't know the names of the members and he had missed checking in. So there was no space in the. Now I could have ignored that and let him believe there was lots of space in the class. But I went behind the desk and I said, no, actually, they're here, check. They're here, check. And they're here, check. The last, we're looking, there's one space left. He's still struggling on the phone and everything. So I'm literally kicking myself out of the class by checking off the names. And the last member comes in, she comes in late. And I look and said, Nicole, and she says, am I in? I said, Nicole, no problem. You're in, no problem, no worries. Check. Judy's out of the class, but this objective is being sustained. I thought, I want to help this side. How can I help this side? The point is without any violence. So we need to feel, just as ego and greed have their sources of feeling good, that meaningfulness. Why do I want purity to rule my kingdom? Why do I want to focus on this at all? I have to have a really good answer. Why am I even sitting to meditate? Why? There has to be a really powerful answer, more powerful than the drugs over here, these spiritual things over here that we're addicted to. It has to be more powerful. Because I do want to be able to constantly bring it back by answering because of this attainment, this reason, and I don't want to bring it back with violence. You should do this. I spoke to a soul one day, very wealthy, and he was sharing, he likes music, he's a musician. So he said, I could walk into a music shop and buy any piece of musical equipment I want. And he said, so one day I didn't even understand what he was talking about, but he bought this piece of equipment. That was some technical thing. And he took it home. And he just bought it for the sake, because he could. And he found he wasn't using it. And every time he walked by it and looked at it, he felt so bad, so guilty, right? We don't want those kinds of energies to be driving us to our objective. We want beautiful energies, non-violent energies of respect for the self, understanding of the self, our-sightedness. We want these very beautiful energies to drive us from these very strong addictions to these very beautiful, beautiful attainments. So I have to be very clear, why am I, when I know for me, when I sit, we call this alpha and beta, that there is the point we're trying to focus on and the attainments from focusing on it. And whenever I sit, yes, I'm supposed to remember I'm a soul, I'm a soul. There has to, along with it, I'll be saying the reason, what happens when I experience myself to be a soul, like how amazing that stage is when I experience myself to be a soul. That needs to be very clear. I can't just, the Brahma Kumaris told me I have to focus on soul consciousness. I got to do it. I'm a point. And it's not really going to work out well over the long run if I'm not personally invested. I'm doing it because I should. Maybe there's a desperation there. But I need to actually be internally motivated, really, how beneficial it is, how, that experience, to experience myself to be a soul. That needs, what is the significance? What happens when I experience myself to be a soul? That all needs to be quite clear. So the focus needs to be very clear and frequently revised. because these other forces that have been ruling my kingdom, they don't rest. They go 20, they even invade our dreams. They're constantly trying to pull us off of our objective. And the other piece of the story this morning is, as I was, removed from the class, as I removed myself from the class, it meant I was going to have to give myself my own workout. Now, I'll be completely honest with you. There wasn't much sleep last night. We had a very full and rich morning. I could easily lie down anywhere and fall asleep. The idea of making myself jump around was looking like 0%. And I remember looking at the young man and said, he said, you can stay, you can work out, I'll sign you in, no problem. I said, yeah, maybe I'll just go home, have a nap. It was so good. And yet, this care for the body in this example, I was saying, you know what, I'm going to go. And I remember this idea of rallying that motivation, rallying that focus, rallying that aim, rallying that energy to be able, we call the spirit sometimes will. When we are focused, genuinely focused and very clear, the reason we're focusing on that, for better or worse, the amount of energy that emerges to realize that objective is huge. And some say, no. Sometimes I said, no, then your heart isn't focused on it. You're superficially focused. I'm talking about when you want it bad. It's amazing what you'll do to make it happen. So again, the attainments have to be very clear for me to want it that bad, that it will override all sorts of resistance that not if, when they will come up, resistance will come up. So, the interesting thing about spiritual focus is that we are trying to focus on something that is so subtle, so quiet, so invisible. And so it doesn't really feel like it has a fighting chance. All the bigger stuff, ego stuff is just so huge. And this thing we're trying to focus on seems kind of flimsy and just too subtle. And, I often compare it to what can happen in a fitness environment. The bottom line is, when it comes to the body, that the quality of the movement goes up, the more subtle my focus is. So when I focus on the superficial, it's not very high quality of effort. But when I can focus on the subtle, and this is a physical example, then the quality of effort, you're getting far more benefit. And so what we notice is that the superficial, the big surface muscles and outcomes, they always pull people, always. And the quiet, subtle core muscles, they're very, very subtle. Many find it a challenge to feel them, and if they can, to direct them. It's very challenging on a physical level. It requires, what will you notice is that souls that are able to do that, they have a vibration around them when they're working out. And it's very, even though they're doing something physically, it's quite gentle and deep and healthy, the vibration around them as they're working out, when they're focusing on the subtle. And those who are focusing on the gross, the superficial, it's very brute force and strong and powering their way through. And it's a completely different vibration. And very similar actually to spiritual effort. My focus could be quite superficial. I'm going to wear light colored clothes and have a plait that's very beautiful and a certain number of pleats in the sari, and I'm going to sit a certain way, and I can focus on all that stuff. It's great. Yeah, at least I'm kind of on the page. Very different vibration when someone's going for a subtle focus. The most subtle being, what is it like to experience myself to be a soul? So, as an example, as you've been sitting here, we use this example a lot. Many of you have probably done it already. But as an example, we've been sitting here together for about 40 minutes. And what have you been focusing on? Maybe what words are coming out of this mouth. I don't know, maybe your stomach growls and you focus on that. I don't know what you're focusing on. Have we been focusing on subtle things? I don't know, but let's try that now. So one of the physical subtle things is the heartbeat. So let's do that. 2 fingers. Let's see if we can find a heartbeat. Success. So we notice when souls do that exercise because they're trying, it's there all the time, the heart beating all the time. We just don't pay much attention. We don't focus on it much. But when souls go to focus on something subtle on the physical level, they have this vibration comes over them. They almost look like they're meditating. They become very quiet, still, introverted. It's quite interesting to be able to touch something that's always there, but subtle. So, and that's a physical thing, the heartbeat, subtle, but still physical. I'm trying to touch a sense of self that is subtle and not physical. Nora. Question. She's asking when it has to be meaningful, that it overpowers the attainments of ego. Yeah, so we always have this other activity we're doing on the side as much as we can in Raj Yoga. And that activity is to focus on the Supreme Soul. And that we do so little during the day. Our focus on the Supreme Soul is very little. And the idea is to keep increasing it. So we do it as we walk and move around whenever we can. But every time I can connect to that being, I get a hit of purity. This side gets a huge hit. I get a hit of power and a hit of purity, huge, that's added. It's like a bonus beyond my own efforts. God has very interesting math, and he says 1 step of yours is equal to multi-millions of mine. So if I just plug in for a second, I'm going to get a lot. It has to be a genuine connection. That's the corollary. It has to be an actual. It's going to give me. So that's always going on the side. So what that helps to do is make my other efforts less and less hit and miss, and more natural, if you will. So I need to have this thing going on all the time, if that made any sense. It's going to deeply affect my other efforts as I go through the day, my other points, as we say, our efforts to focus on cultivating divine virtues as a response, our efforts to maintain a certain vision, attitude, perspective, all of those efforts will be deeply, deeply supported if I'm doing this other thing over here as much as possible. So it will feel less hit and miss. Yeah, good question. So this idea of how, how subtle that focus is. I've always been touched by the story of the archery class, right? Arjun in archery class with Yudhishthira and Bhima and the crazy archery teacher who just looks like he's insane. And it's quite fun. They each go up in turn. Yudhishthira goes first. And Yudhishthira is pretty, he's going to be king. I mean, he's pretty happening. But he goes up and the instructor has put a bird made of straw and rocks on a wall, and they're in archery class, the three of them, and the idea is to see how good an archer they have become, what they've learned. So Yudhishthira comes in front first, and the teacher says, aim. And then he asks, before he fires, he says, what do you see? And Yudhishthira says, I see the bird. And he says, anything else? He says, yeah, I see the wall. And he says, no, you haven't got it at all. Go back. Don't even bother shooting your arrow. Just go back. Well, it gets worse with little Bhima, let me tell you. Bhima comes in front. It's like, he says, what do you see? Do you see the bird? Yeah, oh yeah, I see the bird. And I see a cloud and I see the tree. He says, whoa, stop, go back, out of control. And then Arjuna comes and, Arjuna, do you see the bird? He says, yes, I see the bird. He goes, describe the bird. And Arjuna says, I can't. And he says, why not? Because I only see the light in the eye of the bird. He goes, release your arrow. You are a wonder. And he says something very arrogant. He says, I will make you the best archer in the world. And all this. But anyways, the point is, that level, why is he focusing like that? Why is Arjun the main, out of all the brothers, Yudhishthira is the one who really will sit on the throne. Why so much focus on Arjuna? Yes, he's in front. Yes, he takes, but he's an archer. Focus is everything. Focus is so, in terms of keeping me on track, the opposing forces will do everything in their power to pull me off the target. Very convincing. And it's too hard. You don't know what you're doing and all these things. So I need to have a very deep, meaningful relationship with the objective. Very, very meaningful. Every year, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, we see lots of people buy fitness memberships. Oh, Hema's got a hand up. Yes, Hema.
So I was just thinking, like what we have discussed this morning, like focus has a lot to do with the silent mind as well, right? So
yeah,
if your mind is not silent and wandering, then
yeah,
I mean, it does have an impact on uh, focusing yourself on a particular object or objective rather, right? So
mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about that a lot, and perhaps that's the last piece to share because, we've already said that ego and everything works through the mind, and yet we're talking about silence in the mind. So how's that all going to work? Yeah, how's that going to work? So it's like this thing that we slowly, patiently develop where there is less waste, less thoughts, less happening in the mind, less quantity, more quality. This is like the companion of focus. We do want, and this idea that there's again, that vibration of silence that comes when someone is focused. Think about yourself when you're trying to balance, let's try it now. I love doing this exercise. Everybody stand up. You've already done it before. But anyways, everyone stand up so you can experience. Go ahead. No one can see you. Excellent. So make sure that you have a safe space to stand in, and starting very easily. Oh, I can see you all. This is so exciting. Starting very easy. Have your feet a little wider than hip width apart, any way that's comfortable, and stand. Easy. Yes. So easy. Is it easy to stand? Yes. On 2 feet, a big base of support. Easy. So let's make it a little challenging at this point. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Does anything change? I'm seeing a little swaying, but pretty solid out there. Beautiful. Open your eyes so it's safe, and bring your feet together. I have a quick story that when I was very young, sometimes we had performances, and every once in a while, it was rare, we'd have a makeup artist do our makeup for us. And we were very young, so we weren't really aware of this. So we'd stand with our feet together in front of them. So exactly what you're doing. Easy, yes? Is it different at all? You've just made your base of support smaller. Is there any change? Is it okay? Great. So then they'd say, I need to put some eyeliner on. Close your eyes. Any change? I don't know. Jima's swaying a bit. I'm not sure what's going on. And open your eyes. Was there any difference? Did you find that you had to focus more to stay upright? It's very natural, right? I mean, we're invested. We don't want to fall. So we focus to stay upright. Let's make it more interesting, shall we? Whichever leg you're more comfortable on, stand on that leg and lift the other leg up. Eyes open, standing on one leg. If you need to put your hands up, whatever you need to do. Good. So now we have a very small base of support. Any problems? We're good? Y'all look great. I think we can form a ballet company, the InnerFitness Ballet Company. Very good. And do the same thing, just so you feel well balanced. Do the same thing on the other leg. Stand on one leg, eyes open. Hema's going to take off. So you probably chose, no, I don't mind, Hema. You're just like, oh, I'm going to fly. You probably chose your comfortable leg to stand on, so it might be your less comfortable leg for balancing. Great, great. Okay, back to your more comfortable leg. Standing on that leg, you're standing on one leg. Your objective, your focus is, again, not to fall. Close your eyes while standing on one leg. How much focus is required to meet your objective? And how silent you become. Nora's struggling. It's very exciting to watch. Okay, open your eyes, shake things out. It was intense. Stand on your less comfortable leg. Oh, we're not done. Stand on your less comfortable leg, the other leg. Standing on one leg. I've got one more for you, actually. We've never done this one before. Close your eyes. Good. Oh, Raj, what's going on? Oh, Gina, it's exciting out there. All right. I'm going to turn on the other camera because this is going to require that you see. I'm going to get you to do one more. I really like this one. So let me see if this will work. Okay. I think you can see my feet. What we're going to ask is that you stand one foot in front of the other, like this. And hands will be up. And you're going to rotate over the one leg and the other leg with one foot right in front of the other. So it's like you're on a tightrope. You've got one foot in front of the other, and you're slowly really rotating from the waist, not just your arms, but from the waist. Whoa! Did everyone see Nora going for it? That was so exciting. Sorry, I'm okay now. Try the other leg just to finish off. Try the other leg, one foot in front of the other, really slowly rotating from the waist. Again, you're on a tightrope, one foot right in front of the other from the waist, not just your arms. Your arms only moving because you're moving from the waist. There we go. Excellent. These have been totally useless exercises. But the point is, yeah, that was really exciting. I'm not going to lie. The point is that you naturally become silent. Right. Have a seat, everyone. Shake it out and have a seat. Well done. You were brilliant. Brilliant. We start to become naturally focused, silent. That objective was quite strong of I want to stay upright. And that's exactly the same in spirituality. I want to stay upright. I don't want to fall down, spiritually speaking. You know, what's it like to be upright spiritually? to stand in one's royalty, one's dignity. What is it to fall down, to lose that self-respect? I don't want that to happen. And anytime ego is taking over the mind, I'm losing my self-respect. Anytime I can reconnect with myself spiritually, I'm standing upright. So that needs to be very clear for me. I need to be, and it can take time and it's okay, but so invested in that understanding so that as I go through the day, I might be playing roles and there might be relationships. On the surface, it looks like I'm meeting certain deadlines and tasks, but internally, I have just one focus: to stay upright. Internally, I just want to stay in that self-respect, that royalty. So we call it Raj Yoga. And we often say, it's a bit like a superhero that on the outside, they seem to be a reporter or this or that. They've got different roles, but internally, they always are aware. Their objective is to serve. Always aware of that. Even though on the surface, someone might say, oh, they're doing this, that. Internally, they don't let go of that focus, that sense of self. So, to be very clear, why? What is the attainment? What's in it for me? To really commit to the spiritual path and to understand and constantly trying to refine the subtlety, get more and more subtle as I walk and move around as well. I need it while I walk and move around. That's where falling down happens, is when I walk and move around. It's all fine when I'm sitting alone in a room. But as I interact, that's where we fall down, we lose ourselves. So the silent eye on the self, as I'm coming into sound, it was very interesting this morning to hear both noises, the noise of ego and desires, but also the noise of self-respect. And which one was going to win? Where did I focus? Internally, externally, there was a noise and all sorts, but internally, focusing on that self-respect and bringing that into action. So it's a very big topic. We certainly could spend another session on it, but I know we have to end there. I'm looking at the time. We have free will to do whatever we want. We can meet again next week and look at focus, but I want to see if there's anything, last thing you'd like to share before we sign off. That was almost a fitness class today, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the fitness coaching kind of made it more
engaging.
awake, and I think that added kind of a nice color to it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really nice to have more sessions on focus. I think if you
Yeah.
kind of get some good focusing muscles. I think then.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I feel it's so relevant now, Raj. Raj was suggesting more sessions on focus. She also mentioned that the physical side was quite engaging, but I agree with you because we're in a time of a tremendous distraction, actually. It's quite funny because we're physically distant. So you think the distraction would be less, but we actually have more distractions from on a very gross level, certainly online, etc. But actually on a very subtle level, there are a lot of distractions just in the atmosphere. There's some very strong prevailing attitudes in the world right now. And again, I want to stay on track. There might be, say, for example, a very strong vibration of anxiety in the world, many souls anxious, what's going to happen? And that creates a wave that's really quite tangible, even though it's invisible. Oh, Emma's raised her hand. High
Yeah.
five.
Yeah, so Julie, Ben, whatever you're saying, just to add on to that, like also like also we are connected to people like in a very subtle way by like uh, even if it's a workplace, like you are not seeing them, but you
Mm,
are
mm,
100% you are connected with all of them,
yeah,
and all of them, they are under stress. And
yeah,
if I just think about myself, I just have to think about work.
Yeah.
But people have more than one thing to think about: their family, their finances, their health and wealth, and everything, right? So then we are continuously connected with them, and that also impact our state, right?
Yeah.
It also increases our stress level. It's just not me, myself, but where I am and who I connect to, right?
So, yes, now the focus becomes a source of protection for the self and also subtle support for others. I know we use the example of Voyage of the Dawn Treaders, and I think it's a great metaphor for the current times, actually. That moment in the book where young Lucy, who represents purity, is very, very loyal to Aslan, which really represents the divine and the directions of Aslan. And they're coming to a point in their journey, their voyage, which is very delicate. And they're told that as they move through these waters, whatever thoughts they might have in their mind, weaknesses, will manifest as if they're real. So if they have fears, it becomes reality. Whatever is in their mind, and they won't be able to know the distinction. And they're told, as you go through these waters, you must focus only on Aslan. You must focus only on Aslan. These thoughts will come, but do not engage in them. Stay focused on Aslan. And as they go through those waters, wow, it's a bit of a disaster because it starts to get very stormy. Everyone's feelings of anxiety turn into the weather. And all you start to hear, it's very dark and stormy. So you don't see anything anymore. You just hear people jumping off the shit and screaming and all sorts of stuff going on. And Lucy, who's able to remain that focused, that young girl, saying, stay focused on Aslan. Aslan said, no matter what happens, just think about him. That deep, deep love and trust in Aslan, knowing there's so much benefit that it will work. And really, that's the situation we're in, is that there are subtle, very subtle forces in terms of what Hema's described, the atmosphere, even what people talk about or what they look at online. There's so many, and we're being told you must maintain as much inner peace as possible. Think about your true self, think about God as much as possible. Focus on that no matter what. Focus on that. Focus on that. It will protect yourself and it will really serve others. And I know I'm really feeling that a lot. We say that this is the time of angels. And who are angels? They're just, those who stay light. It doesn't require wings or anything. It's just stay light. At times of uncertainty, heaviness, stress, worry, concern, staying light according to the right method. Angels are always shown with God. Stay light according to the right method. So it's really, focus just seems so much, and to be honest, we need a lot of power of silence right now. And that's why I think it's such a good topic to take up again next week, to look just at that one piece of the silence that comes with building, that muscle of focus, the silence that comes. So perhaps we'll explore again next week. But anyways, thank you so much for your contributions today. Really lovely conversation, lovely to hear from everyone. And maybe we'll just take a moment or two to conclude with reflection. With just one thought, I remember my mind might have been all over the place, but in this one moment, I remember the point, the focus that can bring me everything I ultimately am seeking. Bring me a sense of deep peace, Bring me freedom from heaviness and worry. Bring me clarity, wisdom. Bring me strength, power, and bring me self-trust, self-respect. So much packed in a single point. Remembering who and what I am. I am an eternal being who gets through everything. I am a spiritual being, a soul who is imperishable, light. As a soul, I am a child of God, incredible capacities in myself, and a natural relationship with the One who is ever pure, ever benevolent, ever peaceful, truthful, powerful. I have full rights over that being. Continuing to experiment, making that point my natural response to any questions or issues or concerns that arise inside. The answer is always the same. Focus on the point. Om Shanti. Until next time, whenever that might be, during the week or maybe next week. A reminder that tomorrow is World Meditation Hour, so 6:30 to 7:30. Perhaps we'll have a chance to focus some more on silence, that beautiful focus that takes us into silence. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti Judy Ben and Nora Ben. Have a good rest.
I am beyond resting.
I
Feel
know.
energized. Oh, good.
Om Shanti. Thank
Om
you. I
Shanti.
received Baba's
I
gift
hope that
today.
your head is a little bit better now, Hema.
Oh yeah, yeah. I received a gift from Baba today.
Ah, very good. All right. Take care of yourselves
Okay,
until we
take
meet
care. Bye
again.
bye. Om
Bye-bye.
Shanti.
Om Shanti.